It's your boy Jedidiah, and I'm back again with another video for the Nerd Vibe. Now today we're gonna be discussing something which I know you've all probably felt about it. It's that DC is just so confusing. It makes no sense. So I'm going to try to get to the bottom of it and try to identify 5 things that I think make DC so confusing, 5 things that make DC so illogical, 5 things that make DC so nonsensical. And the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think about why DC is so confusing is 1, the timeline. Now DC's timeline is quite interesting. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer: I'm not discussing the DCEU. I'm discussing all the media that has been published as watchable media. That includes all the animated series, all the animated movies, every movie produced. And when it comes to DC, the timelines are connected but also not connected. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's like there's a multiverse which exists in the DC universe. So meaning all the cartoons, all everything in short happens in the same multiverse, yet they are different multiverse. It's so confusing, and I'm going to try my best to explain, but yeah, it doesn't make sense really. So the timelines are screwed up. That's why you can have, like, this year alone, I think there've been about maybe 5 different versions of Batman released. There's the Batman from Titans, there's the Batman from the Batman, there's the Batman from the DCEU, there's the Batman, the animated Batman, and then there was another animated Batman, and there are probably more which I don't know about, but yeah. So it's just so confusing, and all the timelines somehow are supposed to make sense and they don't make sense. Now it's because there are in-universe explanations for this, with things like Flashpoint and other superpowers who can travel between multiverses and travel through time, that they try to use to explain this, but I would knock it down to bad writing. So that's just the first thing for me which doesn't make sense about DC as a whole. The second thing which doesn't make sense to me about DC at all, but this isn't for everything, but most times the second point I'm about to talk about doesn't really make sense to me, and that's casting choices. Now, one thing that has made the MCU so successful, for example, is the casting choices. Would the MCU really be as successful if Kevin Feige did not find Robert Downey Jr., for example, to play Iron Man? Iron Man was so obscure. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Chris Evans as Captain America, so on and so forth. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. I can name so many other characters, even the most obscure characters. They just make sense as those characters. The MCU has dedicated so much into finding the right actor for the right role. Of course, it doesn't always work out, especially when you think about what happened with Edward Norton. Edward Norton and the Best Hope movie. Maybe that didn't work out so bad, but for the most part they get their casting choices right. The same can be said for DC. For example, when you go into the 90s movies, now for some of these casting choices, I mean, I kind of get it, but most times they just leave me confused. So when you go back to the 90s Batman movies, you have Michael Keaton as Batman, which kind of makes sense, that would make sense. But then you have, in the same decade, you go from having Michael Keaton, who delivered an immaculate performance as Batman, Then you go and get Van Kilmer, whose movie was, let's just say, left a lot to be desirable. Then you also go and end up picking George Clooney, who to this point I'm not sure whether that was an action movie, was just a parody of the character, but I'm told it's a canon movie, which you do you, DC. And I can name so many other characters. Of course there have been some gems. I mean, the original Superman was immaculate, but yeah, most of the live action Superman have been received well. I don't agree with most of them, but most of my friends think that they've done well. But there are some characters, when I see who they chose, for example, when they chose Jared Leto to play the Joker, it left me scratching a bit. And of course the biggest thing in DC's casting catalog, according to me, is them choosing the guy from Now You See Me to play one of the greatest villains of all time, Lex Luthor, and making him look like some college kid who's doing that doesn't sit well with me. But anyway, that's just the second thing that doesn't make sense to me when it comes to DC. The third thing that doesn't make sense to me when it comes to DC is too many Superman. There's just too many. It's like a pandemic. I already said this year there have been so many shows and movies which include Batman, so many different versions of Batman, and most of them happen in the same universe apparently. But if you've watched the series, you could have 6 different Superman who are all canon to the CW verse. It's like, it doesn't make sense. There are so many different versions of Superman. Like, it doesn't make sense which one is the canon one, which one is the not canon one. Like, I'm so confused. Is the Injustice Superman in a different universe, or is that the correct universe? And he has so many different backstories. It's like, did he come in the 1930s and he doesn't age? Did he come in the 2000s and he doesn't age? There's just so many different things, and most of them don't make sense, and they're so confusing. And this isn't a problem which just comes from the people who make the movies or the cartoons. It really stems down from DC's comic book writing. And you see, when it comes to the world of comic books, I think DC has this major problem of always rebooting their comic books. Well, now we have the New 52 Superman, we have Superman Unlimited, we have so many different Supermen that it doesn't make sense anymore. So it's like, how can one Clark Kent have so many different variations in the same universe, to the point whereby you don't know what Clark Kent's real storyline is? So that's just one thing which doesn't make sense. And the fourth thing I'm going to talk about, in the same vein, I've already mentioned this a couple of times already in this video, but okay, this one touches me a lot since Batman is my favorite character, and that's right, there are just too many Batman. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the people who succeed Batman or the alternative versions of Batman. For example, Thomas Wayne as Batman in the Flashpoint Paradox, which they're just doing Flashpoints, but that's for a different video. Now, I'm talking about the different variations of Wayne. Now, this one I think is the biggest problem. Like I've already mentioned, this year alone there will probably be more than 8 different variations of Batman this year alone, and it's so confusing, man, because which one is the real Joker? Like, I'm just talking about live action right now. In the past 3 years alone, we've had 3 different movies come out with 3 different Jokers. This is just live action, by the way. We've had Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in Joker. Then we had Jared Leto's Joker in Zack Snyder's The Justice League. Then this year we have that guy from Eternal's Joker coming up in that deleted scene, and that one scene from the Batman. We probably had more Jokers in Titan. Then we have more Jokers in the animated universe. Now in the animated universe, I guess it makes sense because it's animated, so it really doesn't have to fit one sort of narrative. But when it comes to live action, I really wish they would clean up their act and actually have explanations for this. Like, it's different when you're coming from a comic book world to the live action one, because when you're doing live action movies, it should be coherent and it should make sense to the watchers if you want to keep your audience. And that's why I think most people don't like DC movies, is that they're so confusing. I mean, I'm a fan of DC and I have no idea what's happening most of the time, and as you can tell, I'm probably a big nerd who researches most of this stuff. Now, what for the average person, how are they going to follow your movies if you don't make the effort to make them make sense for them? So I really hope DC fixes that issue. And the final thing that just doesn't make sense about the DC universe to me is the TV shows. Now, the TV shows, you see, I'm going to try and explain this in a way that makes sense. You see, we probably have, there's a CW shows, there's the animated shows, there's the animated shows for children, and then we have the HBO Max shows, which are all apparently part of the DC universe, and it just doesn't make sense. Why? What do I mean by this? Well, for example, the TV show, okay, the TV shows just don't make sense. I don't even know how I can explain it. I'll try and give an example, but it just don't make sense. It's like, for example, Titan. In Titans, you have Raven, Robin, you have Beast Boy, and you have those other characters which I probably don't care about. You also have Superboy. I forgot about Superboy. I like Superboy. But then you have that version, and again you have another version of Batman. But then in that show, we also get to meet the Doom Patrol. Then they make another series, a separate series, Doom Patrol, which I assume, I could be wrong, is a spin-off from that show. But when you watch the show, it's different people playing the Doom Patrol. So it's like, and in that show, there's a different version of Cyborg, there's probably a different version of Beast Boy. But what doesn't make sense about this is like, why have you changed it? It's like it's on the same line. Why have you changed it? And that makes sense. The same thing. I just wish these stories would be concurrent and they would have better writing. Now with James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy coming to the helm of the DC board, I hope they fix it. I hope they can bring some of that MCU magic into DC and please fix it. At this point, I don't care. Just scrap the whole DCEU. Let's just pretend it never happened and do something that will make sense so that DC can take its place, if not being better than Marvel, at least being a close second. Because at this point, it's like there's so many other superhero franchises which are taking the place of DC. It's like DC gave us the first superhero, they gave us the first taste of this, but now it's like there's such a gulf. People, unless you're already a hardcore DC fan like me, you probably just no longer care. And it's such a shame because DC is really good and I hope more people get to see it. So yeah, that was 5 things that don't make sense about DC at the moment, explained by me. That was really painful, but someone had to do it. Anyway, this has been your boy Jedidiah, and I'll see you next time on the next video. Peace out.